Think Resilience course. And actually, Christina knows them pretty well, and they are like the MOB, the Millennium Alliance for Humanity and the Biosphere, with whom I'm working, are envisioning how to spread the information about the human predicament, and they are doing it in different ways. So maybe Christina can talk after that about the specifics of the post-carbon, but we are doing a project, which is an art project, hence why this is hosted here in this space. The art project is What's Next for Earth. It is based on Instagram, and all the art calls are inspired based on the Think Resilience course by the Post-Carbon. So they are difficult lessons, if you will, because yes, it addresses many many problems already, and they connect the dots. All the problems are connected, and it's to get an overview of the human predicament, and in the end to offer possibilities to not solve per se, but maybe to resilience is more about preparation and mitigation than really solving what's coming or what is already here. So I'm going to put all the links in the chat, so you are going to have them. The Think Resilience course, we are at now lesson 11. Right now, the What's Next for Earth project has a current article about thinking in systems. At the end of this call, we are going to have an online exhibition. And lesson by lesson, this, I would say, this ensemble of responses by artists is growing. It's all grouped on Instagram, on What's Next for Earth website. The Post-Carbon is putting some links, and the MOB, the Millennium Alliance for Humanity and the Biosphere at Stanford, is also hosting it. So we hope to kind of spread the word about this project. And so Christina and I started the project, but I really, I think Christina and I are going to make it bigger and envision the what is going to be What's Next for Earth in 2022. Okay, so that said, I don't know, Christina, if you want to say something, but then we are going to watch the video. So it's Richard Einberg, one of the a prominent figure of all the people who are thinking the post-carbon era, and he is working on this for like 4 decades. And his last book is Power. It's it is a very interesting guy. So all the lessons are told by him. And yeah, so Christina, please, if you want to say something, I'm going to copy all the links, and then you tell me when I can send the.
I mean, not much to add. Except what I mean, I guess sort of the GRC regeneration is to me, there's like 2 sides of this coin, right? There's the interconnected crises that are tearing things apart, and then the idea of regeneration is how we might build the new systems we need within the crumbling structures of the old, and so that those 2 things happening simultaneously is kind of stressful and difficult, and that this group was created as a way to have some just creative conversations around that, and that creative responses are really inherently valuable in this moment. And nobody knows how to do that. We're all inventing it because we've never been here before. And so that is just really what I think each of us are bringing a different little lens to, and why we like hanging out. There aren't too many people having this conversation that I've found. But our relationship with Post Carbon Institute is one, and there are a few others happening out there. So it's about building that web.
Okay, do you want me to share the video? So we are
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll watch a 10-minute video and then discuss. Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. So I'm going to share my screen, and it should be this, and you're going to tell me if you can hear the sound, but I think yes.
In video 10, we talked about Donella Meadows's essay, Places to Intervene in a System, in which she says that the goals of the system and the mindset or paradigm out of which the system arises constitute the most effective leverage points for making change in the system. Well, society's goals and mindsets could be thought of as the stories we tell ourselves. Some cultural stories are deeply ingrained in us as a species, maybe part of our evolution, while some are the predominant narratives of the particular society we've been born into. If our society happens to be barreling toward ruin, it's likely that some of its subconsciously reinforced belief systems and behaviors, some of its stories, are preventing most of us from clearly seeing the perils ahead and changing our behavior accordingly. So understanding and altering cultural stories can be an important part of the process of collectively waking up and stepping on the brakes before we plunge into the abyss. So here are some of the most powerful cultural stories we may need to change. For example, we may need to shift from the consumer economy to a conserver economy. You know, we're constantly rehearsing a story that says that life is better when we consume more. The economy improves, jobs are created, and consumption makes us happy. Well, where did the story come from? To a large extent, the consumer economy is an artifact of the 20th century, when overproduction was a significant economic problem. The solution to overproduction was to stoke demand with advertising and consumer credit. Governments began to refer to citizens as consumers, and the health of the economy came to be measured by rates of consumption. But in a future of scarcer energy and materials, that story no longer makes sense. We need to foster a conserver economy in which consumption is minimized. The consumer economy is buttressed by constant flows of messaging in the forms of advertising and growth-obsessed business news, and by government subsidies and regulations. So the shift to a conserver economy will require a reversal in orientation of all those messages and institutional supports. Here's something related to that. From things to relationships and experiences. The story of consumerism appealed to people's love of novelty, and it fed on our deeply ingrained urge to display symbols of status. Advertising contains millions of images and messages, but all tell essentially the same story. Human satisfaction derives from the ownership of certain objects. To get away from consumerism, we will need to replace those satisfactions and symbols, not just with vague promises, but with real experiences and with stories that appeal to our deepest human aspirations. Consumerism replaced satisfying experiences of making, growing, repairing, and sharing with the momentary buzz of buying a new manufactured product. We need to reverse that bargain. Then there's the shift from perpetual economic growth to a steady state economy. The logic behind the consumer economy was that it would produce long-lasting economic growth. As societies industrialized, Agricultural labor was replaced with fuel-fed machinery, resulting in urbanization and the growth of wage labor. Economic growth came to be seen as the necessary source of more jobs and higher incomes for workers, higher tax revenues for governments, and profits for investors. We were riding on the crest of a wave of growth. So the story that this was a good thing and that it could and would continue indefinitely seemed to make sense. But perpetual growth implies a world full of endless resources in which demand can continue to grow forever. We've very quickly emptied the world of resources and filled it with consumers. Economic growth based on ever increasing rates of consumption is simply not possible. The relatively new field of ecological economics has taken this fact as a starting point and outlined the principles by which a conserver or steady state economy could function. The steady state economy will be the basis of a new story about an ongoing, mutually supportive relationship between humanity and nature. Then the shift from corporate hegemony to distributed ownership and increased equity. Our society's current story says that corporations are effective tools for deploying capital to provide products and jobs, benefiting society as a whole. In fact, the corporation has been an effective institution for growing the economy. It encouraged the concentration of investment capital, it shielded investors from liability, and it produced profits that could be reinvested in further expansion of production. But by concentrating capital, it also concentrated control over the lives of workers and consumers, as well as influence over the political system. In a world where inequality has become a serious problem and overall growth in consumption is no longer achievable, the for-profit corporation may no longer make sense, at least in its current form. Cooperatives in which worker owners share risk and rewards may provide a better institutional means for organizing the economy. Nonprofit organizations, currently the fastest growing sector of the entire economy, also offer a useful model for the future of enterprise and work. Already millions of Americans are living a new story in which equity, cooperation, and sustainability count for more than profit and market share. Then a shift from population expansion to stabilization and decline. In video 3, we saw that population cannot grow perpetually and that we've already surpassed sensible limits to a sustainable global population size. One, why does population keep growing? In many cases, the desire for more children is rooted in cultural stories from previous eras in which resources were abundant and childhood mortality rates were very high. In many societies, a higher number of children still confers higher social status, particularly on men. Stabilizing population largely depends on raising the social and economic status of women and on overcoming certain religious and cultural notions that no longer reflect the world we all inhabit. How about a shift from the politics of mass persuasion to a politics of local engagement? The elites of every society have always aimed to sculpt and influence the opinions of ordinary people. Today, this is often done by media professionals using scientifically honed methods that are non-coercive yet reliably effective. Rather than becoming empowered, citizens are increasingly dumbed down to the level where they are most readily categorized and manipulated. The result is political polarization, lack of government accountability, and institutional gridlock. Our political narratives are to a large degree written for us by whoever can pay for airtime, advertising space, and media expertise. In a world increasingly battered by complex systemic issues requiring intelligence and understanding and cooperation, this is a formula for societal failure. What's needed is an informed citizenry, locally engaged and skilled in critical thinking. We need to begin to write our own collective story. Finally, from nature as resource to nature as source. In a consumer society, nature is seen primarily as a pile of resources to be plundered. We need to flip this view and see nature as the necessary ground of our existence, whose welfare is our responsibility. That means raising our collective level of eco-literacy, appreciation of nature's beauty and understanding of how it works. This more mature relationship with nature can then serve as one of the foremost motivators for transforming other cultural stories. Well, as we've seen, the cultural transformations we need are immense. Are they even possible? Well, it's helpful to keep in mind the fact that the construction of the consumer economy and the mass communications culture and the growth of world population from less than 2 billion to nearly 7 billion, all this occurred during the course of a single century. Stories are powerful and change can occur quickly under the right circumstances. But how do we get there from here? Next, we'll look at human neuroscience to see what it can tell us about cultural change.
Okay. I need to stop. I just, before we start the conversation, I just want to, for the people who are not aware of all the lessons, I just want to remind everyone what the themes are since the beginning of the course. It started with energy, which is at the base and the center of everything, really. Richard Einberg just referred to population and consumption. That was lesson number 2, and then depletion. That's referring, of course, to the resources, pollution, social structure, belief systems, biodiversity, collapse. That was all the part 1. And then with thinking in system, we started making change. And then with this one, shifting cultural story, we are continuing this second part of the course. Just wanted to say this because it can help the conversation. He was talking about connecting the dots, and that's exactly what the course is doing step by step. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Okay. And if you want, in all the links we have put on the chat, there is a transcript. So one thing that is really cool with this course is that if you do it, it's free. For each video, there is a written transcript. It's cool because then you can get all the reference. You don't need to watch the video again, and it's all there. So in this one, it didn't talk about books but it happens very often. So it's a transcript. It's somewhere in the links there.
Okay. And the course also has has additional reading and links and video articles in each module, and they all kind of have a similar look. And Michelle's project, What's Next for Earth, is now linked to directly in the course. So we're trying to knit these things together. Like Richard's videos are smart, but not very beautiful or creative. So the idea is to bring the arts more fully into it and kind of move beyond the words to see how we synthesize.
Yeah, I just want to share for 1 second the way we are doing it for example, Collapse. It's the current online exhibition we have on the website.
Show that first sculpture there.
Yeah.
Make it bigger.
Yeah. So this is a sculpture. It's really cool. It's a Christopher Columbus and potatoes on his face, and it's really interesting. And okay, so here it is. It's the Colombian Exchange, and what is interesting, I think, in the submissions is that it makes people, of course, they are asked to do the course and to listen to the videos, but then they depending on where they are working, in which area of visual arts, or it can be anything really, they attach to this concept or theme their creation, and there are some really cool art piece that plug in, like this one, the colonial history, and very powerful. Yeah. So that's the name of the artist is Emily Usa. And each artist then has, she participated, I believe, once. So she has one page. But for example, if we go to Marianne's page or Christina's page, so let's do Marianne because she's here. Hello, Marianne. So you are going to find on the website, we have all the artists participating with all their submissions. And then theme by theme, if you go at the bottom, you can see, you see Collapse here, Feeding the Monster expansion. That's the submission Marianne did for this article. And then explanation or caption, if you will. So yeah, we try to put everything together here. And even like, for example, Marianne and I believe Christina too, you have articles that were published, written for the mob and published on the mob arts section. And they are here too. So Marianne is a visual artist, but also a poet. So there are lots of things that we are trying to do, but it's coming together. That's exciting. I will show you Christina's page. So Christina is developing, well, maybe you can talk about your Collapse collage series. It's super cool.
I've just been, I haven't done much collage before, so I thought this was a fun opportunity to just, I take one issue of one magazine and try to find from it the theme that we're addressing in each call. And so often it's an old National Geographic. But anyway, you know, I like this one exactly that you're showing right now, the social structures. This was like a 1976 Nat Geo with Ricardo Montalban and Christopher Columbus. And
it's really cool.
You know, it's like the insurance ads and anyway. So it's been a lot of fun. There's some humor in it. Anyway, so people are doing all sorts of different things.
But I do think it helps to think about these things. And you're right, Christina, when you hear, and we talked about that, when you hear Richard Einberg, it's a little bit, of course, I mean, he's just talking and it can be a little bit cold, right? It's just, but by adding the arts and making the artist really think about these themes, which are all very difficult and to address, I think we are making some progress. I mean, I really like what I'm seeing. So we'll see where it goes, but so anyway, it's very cool to see all this, and yeah, the website is populating little by little. So yeah, we have a lot of artists participating, more than 115 so far, and some of them, like Marianne, Christina, myself, I participated in like more than 10-15 calls already, because there were calls before the Post-Carbon Institute art calls. There were it started in 2020. Just when the pandemic started. Anyway, I stop sharing. We can have a conversation. Yeah. So I don't know. We can share ideas about what you thought while Richard was talking, and if something like maybe surprised you or something you kind of thought about before. Of course, about consumerism, I suppose everyone has ideas, but I don't know who wants to start.
I can start. Oh, Claire, go ahead. Yeah, I know you have to go.
Oh, thank you. I had a surprise thought, which I'm almost nervous to share because it's so against my own thinking. But there is a certain delight in buying new things. And I remember when I was younger, I would buy something new, and there was kind of a period of time where it stayed new, right? There was still that novelty feeling, whether it was a piece of clothing or whatever. And then eventually, of course, it wears off. And I think maybe the older I got, the quicker it wore off, and it just became functional. But I'm curious about that because I've studied this quite a lot from the perspective of Edward Bernays and the introduction of public relations, where they took the concept of propaganda from World War II and renamed it, reframed it, public relations, to give it a more palatable peacetime appearance. But the manipulation of shifting away from buying because you need something to the new concept of buying because you want something. And for me, that's a really interesting thing to track. Like, why were we susceptible to being persuaded to kind of dive into that delight of novelty? And why did it have such a direct correlation to abandoning nature? And I'm not sure of the timelines with industrialization and consumerism. I'm sure people here are. But I am interested in those relationships because I'm interested in cause and effect.
Perhaps one track of insight may be through exploring families, family dynamics and family pressures upon their lives, like the traditional models of dad goes to work, mom's got her hands in way too much at the house with 5 kids and this disposable product, or like this new gadget that's going to make things all better. We're just so enticing. Maybe there's some clues there. Like the marketing campaigns and strategies designed to tell us, oh yeah, this is going to make all your worries go away if you just pick up this product. And there's a lot of really ingenious, subtle manipulations and Jedi mind tricks that are at play, of course.
Well, and one thing Richard said in the video that I hadn't really put together before was that the advertising industry sprung up because of overproduction, that production had become so effective and efficient in the first half of the 20th century that there was oversupply, and so they had to sell this shit, and therefore marketing. So that was interesting, like, to me, that in terms of cause and effect, like, I hadn't necessarily put that together before. And in terms of how you write a news story, that's challenging, but
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, Luke, I love what you had to say, because, if you, and part and parcel to that is the evolution of generally accepted systems and conventions that did away with the notion of home economics as a viable contribution to the labor pool, to the community, and kind of began the the second class citizen of motherhood and mothering. Carrie, go ahead.
Thank you. There's so much to say. This is so rich. Thank you, Michelle and Christina, and Claire and Christopher for hosting this. And I'm reminded that you showed one of these videos previously, Michelle, right?
We are sharing, yeah, we are sharing all the course. Yes, it's a good reminder.
Oh, okay.
We are sharing all the lessons one by one, and we are following the articles. So right now we are bi-monthly. So it's January,
Okay.
it will be March, the next one.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm so glad that you're doing this because I'm reminded of how important this course is, and I'm going to take it. Can I take it? I can take it, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And I'll share it with people. And I so love this the weaving that you're doing with the arts. Because I think this is one of the things that we often miss in the storytelling and in the cultural transformation that we're all seeking is we forget about our inherent need for beauty and the arts, right? Like this is why this group is so important, is because we need to be reminded of our power of creativity and of our appreciation for ephemerality and, you know, for just the beauty that art brings into our lives. So I'm just so grateful because I think, you know, I mean, I've very, very interested in, I've kind of dedicated, not very well, but dedicated a big chunk of my life to thinking about how do we get people on board? How do we educate? How do we bring people along? How do we invite people into the conversation who are not already here? And when I think about educational media, like one of the things that's been missing from a lot of these offerings so far around bringing people into this conversation, whether it's regeneration or sustainability for the 25 years before that, is just, you know, the fun, the beauty, these qualities that art has to offer. So what I didn't quite understand, and to your point, Christopher, there was an article yesterday in the New York Times. I think it was the New York Times, but I could be wrong. All the news sources are blending together. There was a guy who came out saying, like, he started enumerating all the things. He was stuck at home at work in the pandemic, and he started seeing and being present for all the things that his wife does to take care of their 3 children and their household. And he's like, okay, it was on LinkedIn. Let's officially retire the term stay-at-home mom. So, because there is nothing about what she's doing that requires her to stay at home. She's running around and she's like, anyway, so I thought that was fun. But the advertising piece, I think, is oftentimes the elephant in the room. And I've been meaning for quite some time now to write more about this fact that we are not enough aware of the profound impact that it has. And I would say we're almost reaching peak concentration and peak attention theft right now. Like, you know, it's been happening for a long time, and we're like really on the edge right now with that. But I just wonder, you said something, Michelle, when you were introducing the video that like you all are going to double down on your efforts with this year, you and Christina, or I mean, I didn't quite catch all of that. So I'd love to hear more about where is this going? Where is your work going in the context of this?
That is a good question. And that's why I think I want to join forces with Christina, because she has excellent ideas on how to, like I said, spread the word, which I love to organize exhibitions, to have the contact with other artists. Maybe I'm not so skilled at communicating with people I do not know. So maybe Christina can say something about this. But yes, I want the artists to really own this work, and I want to have it to have more audience. So we are going to find a way. And already, I think, Christina, we've developed